I'd like to welcome Nate Biggers, founder and CEO of MONPURE, to our CMO Spotlight series. Nate, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about what your company does, what your role is as founder and CEO, and then give us a brief synopsis of your career path. Like, how did you get to this point with MONPURE?
Definitely. So MONPURE London is the world's first dedicated scalp and hair health brand. So it's not about the styling. We're not trying to hide anything. We're trying to improve the condition of the hair and the scalp and sort of improve the health and the strength in particular, rather than just the styling elements of things. I am originally from Germany, as you can hear from my thick German accent. I actually have a background in Chinese studies and economics. So I lived in China for a while. I understand the culture, I understand the language, speak Mandarin, and I worked there for a while as well. And after I finished my studies and had some work experience over there, I was really lucky to be discovered by probably one of the best brand builders in the world in the sports fashion industry, by Andy Rubin. Andy Rubin owns a company called Pentland Brands. And Pentland Brands owns different brands in sports, fashion, and outdoor. For example, Speedo is one of them, the swim brand. Or if you look at the shoes for Lacoste at the time, every shoe was designed, sold, and sourced by Pentland. So it's a big privately owned family conglomerate, basically, in the sports fashion industry. So with Andy, I've been involved in his day-to-day business. I've learned everything about brand building, brand management, family business, strategy, and also family culture in the business. It's been very exciting, and I've been lucky to be between so many different brands and the owner of that business. So that's been great. After a year with Andy, where I didn't have a life on my own, I had to live his life, obviously. I went on to go into a business development function of one of the smaller brands at the time that is now having a massive comeback, which was called LS. LS is a sportswear brand known for tennis and ski. It used to be really big 30, 40 years ago. An LS jumpsuit for ski would be more expensive than the whole trip. And then at some point, the brand was over-distributed a little bit, and we needed to reinvigorate it. So I was responsible for Europe, Middle East, and Africa in a business development and strategy go-to-market function, developed the right go-to-market strategy with all the different partners that we had identified for the specific markets, and rebuilt LS. And what was exciting at the time is we were able to jump on this retro trend coming back and made the right decision of, sponsoring old tennis players again that used to be part of LS. We didn't sponsor Boris Becker, but Boris Becker won Wimbledon in LS in '86. So it was quite an exciting rejuvenation of the strategy of the past to bring it back and now have a more local go-to-market approach for each country. So then I got lucky again. I was poached by the founder and CEO of a company called Zalando, which is a big e-commerce giant in Europe. They don't sell to the US. You probably haven't heard about it, but 12 years ago, they didn't exist. Now it's probably around 15 billion in revenue. So it's a big company with about 2,500 hired software engineers. So it's tech at the core and then e-commerce to the outside. And I was helping the founder to develop the direct-to-consumer strategy of the marketplace business and what brands want from that as well. And after doing that for a while, I went to execute it. I took over a small team of 30 people, and they were titled key account management, but it was everything between tech, operations, brand strategy, marketing strategy, algorithms. It's been pretty exciting. We would go out to an Adidas and say to the SVP Digital, Nicolas at the time, why don't we connect all your warehouses directly to our system, instead of us just buying products and deciding for the customer what's right for them. We want to show all your range and let the algorithm show, in the end of the day, what the customer wants to buy. So that's been pretty exciting. During my tenure of about 2 years, I saw marketplace revenue grow from 60 million to 300 million. So it's really been like, building a fast growth startup within a bigger startup.
Absolutely.
So that's from brand building into e-commerce. And then I moved again. I was very intrigued by the beauty industry. Fashion was already online. At the time, it was already 25% globally. But beauty was only 7% online. And I wondered what that is. And well, in the end of the day, you cannot return products. If you have tried them, there's no, operationally, it's a very interesting business. So you want to try the product first, maybe at a department store, before you then purchase it online. So when I received an offer from a big beauty conglomerate in Manchester to become managing director for all the owned beauty brands, I moved to Manchester in England and was there for 2 years, responsible for all kinds of brands, everything from pregnancy skincare. I know everything about stretch mark prevention now, all the way to mascara. Luxury spa, hair care. And again, because of my background in Chinese studies and because I understand the culture and the language, we doubled revenues in a year within China. So that's been quite an interesting journey as well.
And that role sounds like it was, you said brand management. So that really was a more marketing facing focused role.
Yeah, like. To be honest, all of it was brand and marketing, and strategy in particular. So when we talk about LS as a sportswear brand, I would find the partner in South Africa, the right partner to work with, and then we would together define a go-to-market strategy. What is the budget being spent on? How do we build the brand locally in the market, relevant for the local population as well? So it's always been like about preserving also a brand identity in particular, that is there in the archives, but maybe the partner has no access to it. So I've always looked at making sure that we preserve brand equity in whatever we do. And then, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, and then it somehow you got from there to founding your own company. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so I guess it was because I was exposed to a lot of the different beauty brands that we owned, and globally, and R&D, and I noticed that skincare was quite sophisticated already 3-4 years ago, but hair care really wasn't. I mean, we all know our 10 to 15 steps Korean skincare regimes, but hair care, what do? We do shampoo, conditioner, maybe a mask, but that's all we know. And I also noticed the science moved on a lot, to be honest. So I looked a little bit deeper, and all the latest science shows the same thing. The research shows that a healthy scalp supports the production of healthy hair, and therefore the natural growth and the retention of hair. And all those traditional studies fail to recognize that relationship the hair has with its foundation, the scalp. And then I looked at the ingredients as a next step of conventional hair care brands, and all of them were targeted at the hair itself, which really is dead. You can't do much about it. You can make it glossy or feel better, but you cannot necessarily improve the health of the hair by just targeting the hair. So I felt there was an education, a gap in education in the hair care industry. And then the other side to this was preventative measures as well. So when you look to Asia, they're very used to using natural ingredients, and of course they're lactic acids and other ingredients that have active elements to it. But they're a lot better at preventative care. In the West, when something goes wrong, that's the moment when we go see a doctor, try to do something about it. But we forget, what are we doing over the last 10 years? What have we put on our hair that can then potentially lead to hair loss or eczema or acne on the scalp? So I felt there was this big gap in education, and I decided to set up MONPURE London, which had the goal to be the global authority in scalp and hair health.
I love it. And I really do. I'm a cancer survivor, so I went through chemotherapy and lost all my hair at one point. And so, the journey back from that and, my hair is not the same. It is definitely thinner, all of those sorts of things. So what you're saying really resonates with me in terms of my own journey and trying to learn about hair and how to get mine better, thicker, healthier, since that journey. So I'm really intrigued by your product and what you're talking about and the science aspect of it.
Yes, totally. I feel like also for women in particular, hair has an identity. But
yes.
When men lose their hair, they don't mind shouting about it. And if the products that they try don't work, doesn't matter. Arguably, it doesn't matter as much as maybe for a woman and how a woman is being seen as a woman, right? So it is identity, and it's a very very sensitive topic to talk about. But we did a study with 500 women who experienced hair loss or hair thinning, and 92% of these 500 women said that they would not speak to their friends or family about it. And actually, that probably makes that problem even worse. There's a huge emotional toll that comes from hair thinning and hair loss, and most medical insurances, they don't really cover anything that is related to hair loss or hair thinning. So here in the UK, we have customers that come to us that say they experience a huge emotional toll from it, and they went to their medical doctor, to their GP, and the GP would tell them, they would shrug their shoulders and say, well, can't do anything. It's not part of the NHS, or it's something that just nobody has really cared about so far. So we made it our mission to sort of educate women in particular to go through their hormonal changes and how that impacts their scalp and hair health, even starting on birth control, going to postpartum hair loss, after you had your child. Like a lot of women experience like excessive hair shedding. Also the hair follicle at that stage can go dormant and not regrow, and then menopause, of course, which is a really important topic as well, where we can actually see follicle miniaturization and how the hair becomes thinner because of that. So that there's a huge piece in lack of education in that space that we try to cover.
That's wonderful. I love it. So in terms of advice, is there any advice that you wish you had gotten earlier in your career, or the advice that you would give someone starting out now? You've had a really interesting career path. You've done different things in different countries. All of that experience leads you to think about what advice you would give.
Yes. I mean, it's more a little story from what I'm noticing about myself. When I worked with all these amazing people, I was lucky to be exposed to their own experiences. And all of them would say, people is what matters. The right people around you is what matters for the success of the business. But I didn't understand it. I mean, I know it, and I always care about people, and it matters to me. But until I started one myself, I never fully understood it. And it is true, like the culture at work, the people that you have around yourself, you inspire them as much as they inspire you. And it's that motor, it's that engine, that really starts running once you have a small but mighty team together, and you notice those little cogs coming together. So I would say spend enough time on finding the right people, and also don't hesitate to make decisions if they don't fit the work culture. I think that's really, really important, that you maintain the work culture that you want for your business, where people feel comfortable.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really important. And I do think it's true, when you surround yourself with the right people, you get the right energy, everybody's motivating each other, and it's a much better and more productive environment typically that comes out of that. So aligned vision, aligned values, and all people kind of marching towards the same direction is
and
key.
even more so, I would say, in today's world. I mean, COVID, we launched MONPURE in the middle of a pandemic. We're a pandemic brand, and not on purpose, not by choice. I preferred not to. It was May 2020. Yeah, I mean, of course, we have investors, and some investors would say, oh, you can sit COVID out and wait, or, you can just crack on and there was a huge surge in costs on the operational side, which was very hard to navigate. But also then on the people side, if you have the right people that are willing and self-motivated and align with your values, it's a lot easier to do this from far away, when we're not being able to be in the same office. So now we have people in South Africa, in Kent, in London, in Paris, and it really doesn't matter where they are at this stage. Yeah, it works.
You're right. Yeah, it's kind of incredible what's happened in the last couple of years in this world. Well, that leads me, it's a good segue into a leadership question. What are the most important values you demonstrate as a leader, or the values that you look for in others in this tribe of people that we're talking about? What sort of values are you looking for, and what values do you exhibit?
I wish I could say patience, but I'm quite an impatient person. So I definitely have to work on that. But I think in this sentence, you can see I'm quite open to feedback myself. And I also ask everyone for feedback regularly, whether I was in a meeting with someone, and it doesn't matter hierarchical where they sit. I think just being open to that conversation. I'm really trying to foster that very open conversation, and sometimes you get a little bit too much feedback, but I'd rather understand what people think. Also, for any sort of marketing or brand choice, I want to hear, even our CFO would probably express his opinion on why he would prefer the brand to go a little bit more in that direction, and we will listen and we'll take it all into account. And I think we can do this because we're a small team at the moment. We're not a huge team. It gets a little bit more complicated. But at this stage, this is really like being open for feedback is a huge value. And then, there's traditional values like hard work, for sure. It's part of it. We're all in a startup right now. It's going well. It's fast growth. Everybody has multiple hats on. So we gotta expect those as well. Am I missing something?
No, that's great.
I wonder. Yeah.
Well, that's good. I think patience, being open to feedback, and being willing to put your head down and get the work done is gonna, that's kind of the team that you're trying to build, right?
And I think the other piece is entrepreneurial. The entrepreneurial spirit is so hard to find. I mean, I was going through a big change of people in a certain period, and we had a lot of middle management, and we didn't have enough sort of new starters straight out of uni. And because it's a startup, you need to give a lot of direction anyways. So whether it was middle management or whether it was a new starter that's probably more energetic about things and, is willing to try things and not be scared of something that has never been done. So we needed to bring a few more people in that come straight out of uni to really get that motivation and energy back in. Yeah.
Absolutely. We talk about that at our company a lot, the importance of that entrepreneurial spirit, and really just that go-getter type attitude.
Yeah.
Like, don't wait around for someone to tell you what's next. Like, you know what's going on. Like, let's figure out where to dive in, and that's, I think, a really key, especially in a startup, but even in a company that's been around for 7 years or so, right? Like, we all need that entrepreneurial spirit, I think, to keep things moving and to keep things interesting, to try things. So
Definitely, yeah.
So we at Setup believe that everybody has a superpower, and I wonder, what is yours?
What is my superpower? Wow. What is my superpower?
Something you're really good at, something that people are always like, wow, Nate's really got that.
I wish they would say something like that. I think I'm always quite, you can tell from this conversation, I'm always quite high energy, and that helps. It's very hard to bring me, to make me feel really depressed. And that sort of does lift everyone else up, which is nice.
Absolutely.
So passion and energy is definitely a strength that I would say helps build the team. From a business perspective, I think I have a pretty good idea of where industries are going in terms of trends. So, for example, it sounds a bit silly, and the whole system is a bit odd. If you put a pitch deck together for investors, usually you start with a bit of market research. But I have quoted myself in the market research, because before that, industry magazines and news would come to me to ask, where are the news going? So that feels a bit odd. So let's say scalp care, for example, and the skintellectual movement, and treating the skin on your scalp like the skin on your face. That's 5 years ago, 4 years ago, sorry, when I started this journey, was not a big thing yet, especially not in Europe. And now everybody's talking about it. Barbara Sturm just launched a scalp care line. Augustinus Bader has launched his scalp care line. But we've started the niche. So I think these two things are smaller.
Absolutely. Passion and energy, and that vision, trend spotter.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So where does your team find inspiration?
So inspiration can come from your sector. You look at brands that are similar. It can come from yourself. I think you got to be careful not to look at others too much and then trying to become like them. I think we're really we know where we're going because the vision is quite clear. We are very passionate about bringing luxury and science together. And then we take inspiration from these fields. So anything science-wise in hair care and skincare, we're reading loads of industry news to inspire ourselves. But then at the same time, first-person reviews are amazing for inspiration across all beauty and cosmetic sectors. I think very, very good. But it can also come from creative things like movies or team events, or I think you need to foster that creative side. And I also always encourage people to come to me if they have their own ideas and not just get stuck in their day-to-day. And it's always important to have like a 10-15% even, where you have your own project that you want to sort of run to bring the business forward from your perspective.
Definitely. And that's making me think about something I saw when I was looking at your website and kind of researching a little bit about MONPURE. But would you tell us a little bit about the philanthropic efforts that are going on in MONPURE? And that to me is kind of tied to inspiration a little bit. So it just made me think about that. I'd love to hear a little more, and I'm sure our audience would as well.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning this, because for us, everything philanthropic, sustainability, this is a standard that modern brands in general should live by. So we sometimes forget that it's not it's not out there yet. So let's start with sustainability. We're pending B Corp, which means, we're putting planet and people before profit. All of our investors have signed a legal document that binds us to that, which is amazing. In terms of sustainability, everything we do is recycled cardboard, soy ink printing, post-consumer recycled plastic, not just recyclable plastic, which immediately makes a product 30% more expensive, but it is important to do. Everything is ethically sourced. We only work with really ethical businesses from Europe mainly, and a couple in the US. So that's sort of the sustainability side. And then when we get to and also our manufacturer, for example, we work with a manufacturing facility in Germany. They support 200 disabled people in their development. So we're also, when we work with someone, whether it's warehouse, whether it's manufacturing, any partner, we're looking for that value credential in them as well, because we know they have a good heart. It's as simple as that. We want to work with people that care about more than just themselves. Right? So I think that's really important in the selection of partners. And then when it comes to charities, we're supporting a wonderful charity called the Little Princess Trust, which donates real hair wigs to children that lose their hair as a result of cancer treatment. And Wendy, the founder, is an incredible person who set up that charity in 2006. She lost her own daughter to cancer, and when she provided her with the real hair wig, she noticed how that joy and that confidence was reinstalled in her daughter. And she set up that charity that has been going strong ever since. I think they've donated over 15,000 real hair wigs. These are quite expensive. They're like a few £100, £500 approximately to get one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's such a beautiful effort. And it's such, you talked earlier about, hair being such the identity in women, but I also think that's really true with kids, because they don't know anything else. And in general, most kids have hair, right? You don't, as adults, we see people of all states, but as kids, you kind of expect to have it. So I think that's really lovely to help, kind of, like you said, kind of give that spark back to those kids in a way. And that really touches my heart. I love it.
It's so important. It's so important. So, I mean, right now, I don't want to make any commercial, but these are the new gift boxes, and of those gift boxes, so an artist has done them. We commissioned an artist to do a beautiful watercolor print for this gift box, and 15% of profits of this gift box goes directly to the Little Princess Trust. And we're also funding like solar panels for their new headquarters, and everything is linked back in sustainability and having an impact on people and planet always.
I love it that it feels like, it sounds like everything that you're doing is truly with purpose in mind, and it's really thoughtfully done. You're not just signing on a partner or a manufacturer because they're available or they're cheap or whatever, that you're really, sticking to those core values that we were talking about, and making sure that every aspect of the business is in line with that. And that's lovely. And I hope that this is the model for more businesses, going forward. And I do believe that consumers today are demanding it. And it's that tide is shifting, that these things weren't even discussed 10, 20 years ago. So it's amazing. And it's companies like yours that are moving that needle. So it's really great to hear.
And I think the reality is, it is up to us to do that. It is up to the new companies to do that. The old ones are big ships. It's very hard to steer them in a new direction. Like maybe they should, but no CFO of a very, very big company would say, yeah, it's totally fine to change packaging tomorrow to 100% post-consumer recycled and make the prices go up 30%. But also the the supply is not there yet. The supply has to be built up, and very hard to work with post-consumer recycled plastic. It's very sturdy. Colors can change. You never know if you get enough. So it's really like a very slow process of building that industry up there that closes the loop.
Yeah. Well, so you talked about launching the company during the pandemic. That may be the biggest challenge, but I wondered, what is the biggest challenge that you face, as a marketer, as a business owner? What was it, that launch and getting through that? Are there continued challenges that are ongoing? I mean, obviously you have all these challenges you've mentioned of, to stick to this purpose and to keep things in line. But what comes to mind when I ask about the biggest challenge you face, either in marketing the product or just in general with the business?
Yeah, absolutely. Loads of challenges. There's a big list. I'm trying to find, the main ones. I think the main one, because we launched the pandemic, we're a premium brand, and everything we do requires us to pay more, whether it's ingredients, it's percentage of ingredients, it's the the cleanliness of ingredients, where we're sourcing it. Everything requires additional costs. So our products are premium, and they deserve to be premium. But usually as a premium brand, you launch with a big retail partner for awareness. And that totally fell away for us because of the pandemic. It was impossible to get in touch with any retailer for a year, approximately. They furloughed 50% of their workforce. By the time my samples arrived at A, either the person went to B or they went to their family's house because they were worried something more serious is going to happen. And then I sent it again, and then the person was furloughed, and then everything disappeared. So I gave up at that stage. And we totally had to restructure everything for digital. And then on digital, I think the big challenge was education. How do you educate people on something that is not common knowledge? Great hair starts with the scalp. How do you educate on that? And also, how do you tell people that it can take 3 months until you see any visible results when it comes to prevention of additional hair shedding? It can take 6 months to see additional hair growth. It's slow beauty. Nothing is fast. Lots of patience, getting back to that point. And it really is a slow educational piece. Our blog receives an unbelievable amount of numbers of unique visitors each month. And they're usually written by our experts, our dermatologists or our medical doctors. They go deep into the research and define the differences between hair thinning and hair loss, or define how long it takes for the natural strength of hair to build up again and the hair follicle to build up again. And also define, when are the moments where you cannot do anything and you probably have to go to other solutions like PRP, for example, where you inject stem cell solutions into your head and, and hope that you have hair regrowth from that. So it's, it's a very open conversation. We know that scalp health and hair health is something very holistic. It can be nutrition, it can be hormonal, it can be bad ingredients in other products that people use. So it's a journey. It's the journey. So that education has been one of our main focuses, and we're still working on doing that in the right way.
And maybe that's a good segue to asking you about agencies. We, at Setup, we're marketing matchmakers, and that typically means we live in the space between brands and agencies and work to connect them to make, matches to do great work together. Do you guys work with marketing agencies today? And if so, what parts of the business do you trust to the agencies?
Yeah, great question. I think we went on a bit of a journey with that. Initially coming from big startups, all with, the Hut Group was my last place. They just bought Derm Store in the US, right? And before that, Zalando. These are both big startups that have tech at the core, and we do everything. At that stage, we did everything internally, and we would not work with agencies. not with many. So this was my attitude when I first started off, but I think I made my life a bit too hard. I really did. Like, now everything has to be done in-house. So right now we've changed our model a little bit. We're doing all paid ads is happening outside of the business with a fantastic company in London. So does SEO, is also a separate agency. And then we have PR agencies that we work with in the US and the UK. We have affiliate agencies that we work with as well. But the brand direction and the education still has to happen internally. So even if the paid ads company is telling us, here's what's working, do this, we still have to look at the tone of voice. We'll have to make sure that, because it's a new product, it's not a cosmetic product, it's something to improve your scalp and hair health. It's that educational message again that needs to be brought to the consumer. And also visually, we also control that with our own design team in-house. So I prefer that. Influencer, we work through our PR companies with influencers. Traditionally, it's not been a very successful channel for us. Maybe because we didn't find the right agencies to help us with that, or we were just bad at it ourselves, could be. But because our product appeals a lot to women 40 plus, because our product needs that level of education, it's not enough to just put it on your feed and say, this made my hair better. It's really like trying to find the people that want to use that for 3 to 6 months and go through that transformational journey, and then talk about that publicly on a very sensitive subject as well. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, well, that's great. That's really interesting too. You know, you spoke of your own little journey in there about, you know, your attitude towards agencies. And I know sometimes they do get a bad rap, but a lot of times they can really help. And it's great when you're paying them to be the experts in a space. And I totally understand keeping the brand design, the creative in-house, and kind of really owning that, but then letting the agencies place things and do it. So that's great. So to wind down, I'm going to ask a few fun questions. We call them fun. Maybe you won't find them fun, but we'll see.
We'll
so
find out
what? You're right. What is a quote or a book or a movie or a band, anything like that that inspires you?
A book that I love is called Legacy. Don't know if you've heard of that. It's about the All Blacks, a rugby team from New Zealand, and it's the world's most successful sporting outfit, undefeated in over 75% of their international matches over the last 100 years.
Wow.
So it's a leadership book, but yeah, I can only recommend that.
Wonderful. So other than family, where do you find joy outside of work?
Friends. Friends. I play basketball regularly. So I think, yeah, generally having that sport outlet that moves the whole body is super relevant. Yeah.
Got it. So what is there a brand that you've never worked on that you admire the most, and why?
It's got to be one of the big ones. I mean, there's a reason why they're big, to be honest, and what they have done well. It's going to be boring, but I think Apple has done an incredible job from design to ease of use, price points, and as they put it, they make products good enough to lick.
That's good. Yeah, and I mean, there is no denying that they have changed our world. You know, that is a brand that has changed our world. So it's not boring.
Okay.
You might not be the only one that referenced them, but that doesn't make it boring.
Sounds good.
Is there a fictional story or a movie realm place that you would like to live in? You know, if you have a good one in mind, that's great. If not, you know, we've had answers from Star Wars to Harry Potter to all over the place. Is there a realm or a book or a movie that just captured you and you wished you could be there?
I love anything fantasy and magic. It's a bit nerdy, but I love all of this because I feel like it takes me into any different world. Is a good world when you have been full on for 16 hours a day. So
That's right.
I think for me, well, right now Dune is in the theaters. So, you know, I wouldn't mind a holiday in the desert for a bit.
Love it. Love it. Well, to round out today, Nate, is there a question that you wish I would have asked that I didn't? Anything that you want to share?
No, I don't think so. I can't, you know, no.
Oh, good. That means I did a good
I think you
job.
asked amazing questions. Thank you for that.
Wonderful. Well, Nate, I'd really appreciate this. Nate Biggers, founder and CEO of MONPURE. We appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate you having me.